Do that and
Yeah,
get rid of that. Nice. How have you been? Hey, good morning, by the way.
morning.
How's the sleep schedule? Have you been up a while?
I have today. Yeah, I've been filming. So I've been getting up at 5 a.m. and 6 a.m. and stuff. So I haven't. I only wrapped a couple of days ago, so I'm still on that kind of. I'm passing out at like 10 p.m. at the moment and stuff. So it's been healthy, I guess. But I'm not getting any gaming done.
Good. So you've been busy then. You
Yeah.
literally back working a lot. Busy.
Yeah, a couple of projects, and I start prepping today for a new one, which hasn't been announced. But yeah, so I start training. I've got a personal trainer at 1, and I've got a few months to do the character work. So it's my favorite time. I love it when this bit starts.
And do you like it then? Do you actually like it when you have to personal train? Because I always think that if I was in a position where someone said to me, "Look, you need to get in shape for this. There's a reason that you need to be fit," I'd be like, "This is amazing," because I would never do it off my own back. I don't have that instinct.
Yeah, same. I mean, I need that extra motivation. I find that the only way to make me care about something is to relate it to a character, or I won't do it or take care of it. There's certain dental things I need to get done, which I needed to get done for about a year and a half. And then when I read the script, I was like, oh, this guy's got good teeth. So dentist appointment was called today. Like that. So everything comes down to that. So it's I use it as motivation, but I also find that one, I have to care because, and I've done this, you can see a very big difference in my prep and how I show up when when it doesn't hit here, when it's not. Do you know what I mean? I'm still professional, but there's a big difference between something I genuinely care about and something that is work. And this project is something I genuinely care about. So I want to throw everything into it. And it's almost like starting now and doing, I don't have to be in shape. This role doesn't require that. No one's asked me to do it. It's my own interpretation of what I read. And I find that it basically means that I'm getting my head in the game 3 months before everyone else, or 4 months before everyone else. And so when I arrive on day one, I'm good to go. So it's also a way of almost, I'm starting work early to really get into the mind frame and do something. But I wouldn't do it for everyone.
And is this stuff that has come in since Mass, that you've booked since Mass, or was this already in the diary before Mass?
Already in the diary.
Right.
Yeah, there's nothing. Mass, the way it works, I understand, is so Mass came out last week, Friday or something like that, or whatever. It's been over a week. And you wouldn't see the effects of that for probably a couple of months.
Okay.
Maybe. So nothing I've booked or done has been about Mass. That's just other stuff, I guess. I feel like the show I just did was probably Bly, like a ripple effect of Bly, based on the character and who they asked me to play. I was like, well, it's the same fucking dude. But so who knows? In 3 months' time, it's Islamic sheriffs galore.
There could be worse characters, though. We're going to talk about Sheriff Hassan. I mean, wow. So, look, Mass has just come out, and thank you. Like, I remember last time you were on, you said, "Listen, I do want to talk to you about this. I cannot talk about it at the moment. When it comes out, I'm going to come back on. We're going to get into it. This is that moment. I'm so excited to do it." How have the last I think it's a week, 2 weeks maybe since it came out, maybe a little bit less. I don't know. I've watched it twice.
Like 10 days or something.
Yeah. My timing's off because I've watched it twice. I watched some of it ahead of this interview today just to remind myself of some moments. But what has it been like for you since it got released?
I don't know where to start. I guess the best way to explain it is to talk about how I felt when we were filming and when I wrapped. and I've been quite open about it on social media, and particularly like I had a conversation with Mike recently where I had hid certain things from him because he doesn't need the extra stress of knowing that one of his actors is falling apart on set. It's better to tell him when everyone's slapping us on the back and congratulating us. And so the truth of the matter was when I was offered the role by Mike, I was one of the earlier ones. And I grabbed it with both hands in the pitch. So I went to meet Mike in Los Angeles and we sat down. I think I'd only done the pilot. Everyone says like, you're Mike's guy, you're returning, you're part of the trip. I was like, dude, I've done one ep of Bly with Mike and that's it. That was my relationship to Mike. And then somewhere around November, he calls me in and from start to finish explains Mass. So all spoilers, there were like, I got it from him, not from reading the script. So he just walked me through the beats. And then at the end, he didn't even tell me who he wanted me for. I think he told me the story from start to finish. And I was like, am I the priest? Am I an angel? What am I? And then at the end he went, and I'd like you to play Sheriff Hassan. And immediately I was like, I'm not good enough. I can't play in my 40s. I don't know Arabic. I'm not Muslim. I can't do an American accent. I don't want to do any of this. And that was what my brain said. And my mouth went, yeah. And then he was like, okay, well, go speak to your team and let them know because you need to talk to them. And I was like, no, it's mine. That's it. It's done. Don't call Dev Patel or Riz Ahmed or anyone. This is mine. And then as I left, it sunk in. And I was like, you're fucked. And from that point on until September 23rd, the night before, was anxiety, losing sleep, just the lowest I've ever felt as an actor, the most scared professionally. Mike knew parts of it, like when Mike would talk about the project and stuff, you could tell in my eyes, I was like, whenever he'd talk about feedback. Somewhere around July or June, we were hanging out and Mike was like, hey, do you want to come over and let me show you all the apps? Let's do it in 2 sittings, buy all the junk food. So that's how I watched it.
This is how you watch Mass with him. This is
how I watch Mass. Yeah.
For the first time, you sat down with Mike to watch it together.
Yeah. With Boss Man. so you can't be like, because Mike's watching me, watching the show. Like and I did that with him with Bly, so it was the second time I've done that, and and I do suffer from panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and I nearly had knowing the script so well, I would have a full-blown attack moments before I knew the next scene of mine was coming up based on the script. And so then that's how I watched it. And when it was done, I was like, okay, here's my feelings on it. I'm very hard on myself, so those are my criticisms, which I'll keep for myself, but I didn't ruin the show. That was my main concern. So I watched it and thought, this is fantastic. Oh my God, look at Sam Sloyan and Kate Siegel and Hamish Linklater and Zach Gilford. I mean, the performances just go on and on and on from straight across the board. And I was like, oh, you're great. You're fine. You snuck in, did what you did. You didn't stink up the place. You got the fuck out of there. So there was a sense of calm, but then it starts up again when you start seeing critic reviews, and your publicist will send you every morning, whether you want it or not, you get this press break, and it's every link with quotes to every review I was getting sent.
Can you not say no to that if you don't?
I guess I could. I guess I could. I just never did. And so I was getting that, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is good. These are great. It's going to be different when the public get to it. And then the public got to it, and then it's been overwhelming. And then, like I said, my expectations were super low. My expectations were, as long as you don't get singled out for a negative. Never wanted to get singled out for a positive. Was never hoping for that. But as long as I don't get singled out for a negative, you're good. This is a good learning experience. You're moving in the right direction. And instead, Hideo Kojima quote tweets me and calls me the sheriff. Do you know what I mean?
That,
and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? So it's been from low lows and high highs, and yeah.
Because the response to the show, but the response to your performance has been 100% positive and more than positive. People have loved your Sheriff and your performance. I think I did read an interview you did where you actually said it's not my favorite performance of mine. And I wondered when I read that, whether that was because you had another performance you preferred, or because you would never sort of dare to single out a performance of yours as your favorite.
It's when I said that, these were before the show came out. And I again, a lot of these, and from now on, I think I'm only going to do podcasts, because when someone else writes my words down, some of the shit that's in, like, there's some crazy misquotes where I was like, I didn't fucking say it like that. And I was smiling and they didn't put that in, and it just sounds mean. What I meant was the experience of making it wasn't my favorite. And that's not a knock to anyone. I meant that it wasn't, we can talk spoilers, right?
Yeah, of course. Oh my God, we're gonna. I'm gonna prefix this entire chat with "Do not listen to this show until you've seen Midnight Mass." We can talk. We're gonna go into some serious spoilers. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. So again, I just try to be candid about the experience and stuff. For now, I'm sure one day I'll get much more guarded about it, or when I get my fingers burnt. But what I meant was, for 7 eps, which was shot at the height of the pandemic, pre-vaccine, when we didn't know if this art would kill people and whether it was worth it. That was the environment we were shooting in. My director and leader and captain is basically in a hazmat suit, talking intimately about your widow, and it's just Darth Vader telling you stuff. It's a very interesting experience. On top of that, while we were already bubbled, I doubled down on the social distancing from my cast, which I deeply regret. And actually, on the night of the premiere, we all Zoomed as a group, and I apologized to them because I really cut myself off from Crockett Island and these wonderful humans.
For the character?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And why do you? Why do you then regret that? If it was sort of an informed decision based on the idea that Hassan is an outsider on the island because of his faith, why would you then sort of go, actually, I should have done it differently?
Well, it's like the Laurence Olivier quote to Dustin Hoffman, or whatever. I'm going to butcher it. Right? Well, why don't you just act?
Yeah.
So I'm always, again, I want to be the best I can possibly be at my job, and I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to learn about techniques, and I'm going to experiment, and I'm going to go, that wasn't worth it. That was worth it. That was beneficial. Because a lot of the things I've done some dumb shit in my time for acting. Like, I don't think I've ever publicly spoken about this, and this is kind of gross. For iZombie, when I played a heroin addict, I fucking snuck in to an NA meeting to meet other heroin addicts and listen to their stories and really get, I don't know what the fuck I was doing. And I got into the room, and I thought it was going to be like Fight Club, just like an open church, rows of 30, 40 people, and talking about their experience, talking about recovery, and just understanding it. And instead, it was a classroom with 4 people. And when I walked in, they were like, "Hey, nice to meet you." And I was like, "This isn't worth it. This is gross. I feel terrible." So and then I was like, never do that again. I lost a bit of my soul there, and I don't think that was worth it. And I felt gross afterwards for doing that for a show. So again, I'm always like, I'm fine tuning it. I don't want to send rats and condoms to my co-stars. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's not fucking worth it. So
because when that makes it, when shit like that makes it out into the public domain, people are like, "What the fuck was he thinking?" Yeah. But so, do you feel like? I mean, do you feel like you missed out on an experience of sharing like those days with the cast, like 100%. And being in amongst them?
Yeah. The biggest one, which I reached out to Hamish about, and I said to the rest of the cast too, was I wanted to be a better actor. I want to keep pushing the limits or my limits. So I play Hassan and I isolate myself and I don't bond with little Rahul, who played my son. Instead, the relationship that I had with little Rahul was one where he didn't really know where he stood with me, much like he doesn't really know how to kind of talk to his dad. Great. Okay. Could have just fucking acted it. But what I really missed out on was I had front row seats to an acting masterclass. Every day I could have gone to set. I could have been in those mass sermons and watched Hamish Linklater do something that it's one of the best performances I've ever seen on TV.
It's incredible, yeah.
Wouldn't that have been more beneficial as an actor than I'm gonna stay in character? So like, again, I'm just very honest about stuff, man. And so I was basically like, I robbed myself of some acting masterclasses here.
I can see the logic in that, because like you say, every single performance across the board, yours included, Hamish, Samantha Sloan, just everyone is so good. And I've heard before people talk about Mike being an actor's director. Like he really is great with his cast. And you look back across his work, and that's true for everything he's done, film and TV. Like he gets these wonderful performances. What is it? Like, if you had to try and say what it was, because you've worked with him twice now, is there something that he specifically does that draws out these incredible performances, other than, I guess, just the trust of his players in his writing?
I think it's an amalgamation of things. Again, I can only speak for myself, but he's the most important thing is he's just a wonderful human. And that's it. So that's number one. He's a genuinely wonderful person. He really champions people he believes in. He's funny. Even at like any other director, I would have fallen to bits on Midnight Mass. I was drowning. I felt like every day I was drowning under the weight of the expectation of what I had to do, only exacerbated by how wonderful everyone else was. And Mike never made me feel like that. Mike always had my back. Mike, whether it's a reassuring pat on the shoulder, or, he texted me after my monologue, because someone on Twitter was like, Mike Flanagan and Rahul Kohli are the newest Scorsese DiCaprio pairing, or some dumb shit like that. And I had texted it to him, the screenshot. And after I finished my monologue and I was on my way home and I was in my own head and I was like, fucking hell, that was terrible. I get a text from Mike and it just says, "Good job, Leo," with a heart emoji. And I was just like, that's the dude, man. He's just, and his notes, the thing is his notes are so, I call him a surgeon. Communication, I think, is one of the most important things between an actor and a director. A lot of the frustrations, a lot of the things you'll see on set come from a lack of communication. And it doesn't mean that they're bad communicators. It's just that a director, for the most part, has to have almost, unfortunately, a different way to treat each cast member based on their personality. This person can take a jibe. This person cannot. This person is on the edge. If you push them, they will fucking. And so the best directors, I think, instinctively know how to know their cast and know how to motivate them and know how to have their back and know how to communicate with them. And one of the things that I noticed with Mike, with me, I don't know if that's the same for Kate or Hamish or Sam or whoever, but I found him to be a brain surgeon, which was, I don't like overly noting. A big long conversations. I'm kind of, let's just try it. And Mike he'd come in and drop just a nugget. Like he'd come in with this surgical change and it was so concise. He'd come in with a sentence and he'd just go pop and he'd leave and go back to Video Village, and it would permeate, and I'd be like, holy shit, it would change the whole thing I had planned for the day. And I was like, I never saw it like that. That's genius. And then take it on another direction. Not long conversations. I don't understand. What do you mean? So what I do, it's just, he's just he's a surgeon, man. But yeah, and like I said, like for me, he's he's just become a mate as well. And, you know, I think Midnight Mass has made us closer. Now I do feel like I've worked with Mike, because I didn't feel like I that whole, you know, acting troupe thing until then, and basically him guiding me through what was one of the toughest and most difficult mentally challenges of my acting career, and being out on the other side when he said people are going to love Hassan, when he said you're doing fine, stop it, you're good, I've got you, I'm not going to make you look like an idiot. And he did all them things and more.
And why was it though? Why was it so tough? Because obviously, I mean, look, there's two ways of looking at it. Well, one is the fact that the show itself deals with some vast themes like faith, love, guilt, addiction, fanaticism, corruption. And then there's obviously the character of Hassan himself. You know, I mean, you're an atheist and you're playing a Muslim sheriff in this Christian community. What made it so tough for you? Responsibility?
Yeah, that was one. I put a lot of various pressures on myself that I shouldn't have, but looking back, I'm glad I did, because of how it was received. And it was like, this will be one of the most watched shows of the year. And the weight and expectation I put on myself to make sure that this character was everything we kind of wanted him to be and represent worked. But at the time it was, you know, I'm not Muslim, and I grew up, always been Muslim adjacent. My bestest friend in the whole world, we went to primary school together, is a devout Muslim, and there was a group of 4 of us. We all went to the same school, and it was Aaron's a white guy, atheist, myself, I would be a Hindu, whatever, Indian, but I'm an atheist, and then 2 Muslim guys, Muhammad and Muhammad from Morocco, both devout. This group of 4 never fought. There was none of this bullshit. There was just, we would wait, even me and Aaron, we would wait outside school during Ramadan to eat our snacks so we could break fast with them. We wouldn't eat until they could. It was just a respectful group. So, and then when Islamophobia hit after 9/11, I got sucked in to the Islamophobic kind of rhetoric. So it wasn't just them, it was the 3 of us being searched at Perivale train station, or having our passports confiscated at Heathrow Airport. So I've always been around it, but I still am not it. So when I got offered that role, the first person I called was Bo, Mohammed Boisa, and we just started talking about it. We just started talking in a much more specific way than just knowing his cult, his religion, and knowing his feelings towards it. And when Mike found that out, I want to say in January, so November is when I got offered. January is when I was talking to Mike about something, and Mike was like, "Can I talk to him?" And I was like, "Yeah, he's just my dickhead friend. I'm nervous. I don't, you know, this is a boss friend thing crossover." He started sending the scripts to Bo, and him and Bo started having these conversations over email, which obviously I was CC'd into, where Bo would make slight adjustments or agree with this. This is great. I mean, there was nothing, Mike had nailed it from the start anyway, but there was just these hyper specific things that Bo contributed to, particularly the PTA scene. That was a big one about Muslims and believing that Jesus is a prophet of Muhammad. A lot of that was reworked together. But the main thing is, I think I'm going on a tangent here, but the main thing was the expectation I put on myself was the first conversation I had with Bo was what did you want to see when we were kids? What did you want to see from, I want to make a Muslim superhero, just straight up. And what do you want to see? And it was be groomed or handsome, be strong, never question the faith, no matter what. Beat vampires up with your bare fists. I'm the only character that does that. That's pretty badass. Blade was still a night walker or a day walker. And all of that idea of giving something there that, like, portraying something that people could point to and say, yeah, that's badass. That was the main thing. And so even when it came down to costume, I wanted something that was iconic or instantly recognizable. And when Mike and Terry, our wardrobe, and myself, we had this denim the Canadian tuxedo, the double denim with the sheriff's badge and the belt and the scar through the eyebrow, and all of that stuff was just like, this is it. This is an action figure. This is what I want. And I know it's a really weird way to look at it, but that's what the expectation was. So every day it was like, I felt I had put the weight of 2 billion people on my shoulders. And on top of that, I was also playing American for the first time, and I don't do accents. So, and while that wasn't a resounding success for me personally, I also put that on me amongst my American cast members. So by the time I'm on set, I'm just like, and
I mean, when you tell it like this, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, it sounds like you put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah. And then that's why when it comes out, and then the tweets come, and it's from people in the community, it's Muslims and South Asians and Middle Eastern Twitter accounts saying, this is it, this is the one. Felt mad proud. One of my friends, Timur, texted me and said, my brother and I'm watching it with my little brother, and he said, even just the little things that you guys got right on Midnight Mass, we're celebrating things like Hassan not taking food from the buffet because he doesn't know if it's halal, which wasn't in the script. It was just something I knew. I'd watched Bo do a million times when we were kids. He was like, we're celebrating that, like when Cap picked up the hammer, and he's like, but that's how dire representation is that even just doing, I don't want to call it the minimum, that's reductive, but just doing the basic stuff of just a well-rounded represented character is seen as this big thing. And it's such a shame because it shouldn't be. It should be normal. Everything that Hassan does should just be normal. You should be used to it. It shouldn't be groundbreaking or anything, but sadly it is. So I don't know, hopefully I don't really give a shit if this, people think that, maybe something like Midnight Mass will launch you to the next level of your career. I don't give a fuck. I'm confident in myself quietly. I will get what I want and do the projects I want to do. The thing I want is this to be an example for other shows and showrunners to maybe question their representation. And maybe we don't just do it lazily and make Islam this oppressive thing that our characters have to constantly challenge whether they want to be a part of it. It's not working.
I mean, I followed the whole response on Twitter because I was fascinated by it. And obviously, you're really active on social media, so you'll have seen it too. But the praise that was heaped on the PTA meeting and the speech at the start of, I believe it's episode 6 about the 9/11.
Yeah.
Those two moments, but especially the PTA meeting, it was heralded by people as just the best writing they'd seen and the best representation of Islam, both in terms of not only Mike's writing, but in terms of your performance as the character.
Yeah, I don't know about the performance. I could pick it apart right now, but Mike and Mohammed Boisa really did something. And yeah, I saw it trending on like Muslim TikTok, and I was like, Bo's not on social media, and Bo's not in the industry. Bo's back in London, he works in IT and stuff, and I make an effort to like call him up or send him articles or send him comments, and I'm like, look at what you've done for your community, bruv. Like, are you taking this in? Are you aware that, this is being spoken about like this, that it's being received? Like, imagine, someone and Bo's not a showy off type guy. He's a very quiet, confident person. And yeah, and he just doesn't flex very much. He's dignity. We use that in Midnight Mass a lot, the word dignity, and And that's the word that I think of when I think of Bo. In the face of all the things I've seen happen over the years to him, the microaggressions and stuff. I thought about Bo every day. Like, how would Bo deal with this? How would Bo deal with that? You know, Bo's 6'3", he's ripped dude, and he could fuck up anyone who says these things, and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He just doesn't. And that was what it was. And I've been like, I don't take ownership over Hassan at all. I'll take all the daddy comments. That's me. You know, I'll take all the sexual objectification gladly, fine. But anything to do with Islam, I place firmly on the shoulders of Mohammed Hajim, who was our consultant, who was there on the day to make sure that our prayers were done correctly. My Arabic was okay, and Mike, obviously, who wrote the damn thing from start to finish. And you know, it's not like the consultants came in and had to build something from the ground up. When Bo came in, he was like, "This is great." A couple of notes, and that's it. So Mike already had got that locked down, but anything to do with the Islam and how the community's received, I shoot it straight back to Bo. You know, it was him that we spoke about you know, the Muslim superhero. It was him that when Bev Keane says some of the most awful shit, I think about how he would respond. So I was like, if anyone's saying that Sheriff Hassan is a wonderful representation of Islam, it's because Bo is a wonderful representation of Islam. And through him, I played Bo to a certain degree. So I don't take any of it. In fact, I already learned some lessons. I don't know if I should talk about this, but there was some questions asked about whether or not I should be playing a character like Sheriff Hassan, being a non-Muslim. And that's bound to happen. I don't think that that's a majority, not even remotely close to a majority. But that's, you know, it was a conversation, and look, I could dismiss it and just be like, yeah, but 99% said it was great. I was like, oh, well, stop. Let me just think about this for a second. How do I feel about that? Am I taking roles away from someone? Is it my story to tell? And while South Asians, in India, you have Muslims, in Pakistan, you have Hindus. Two of my grandparents before the partition would have been from Pakistan. So it wasn't like I was changing race, and it was religion that was called into question. It was like, well, one, no one's asking if the Catholics are Catholic. But again, it's about being underrepresented. So that doesn't really apply. But if it's about representation, religion's a choice. So I could be any religion I want tomorrow. So I had all these things, and I had just basically decided that, you know, I had done my job with Hassan, and I hope that starts something. And I only 3 days ago, there was another project which I'd been the lead off for nearly a year and a half, and it had got suspended through COVID, and it was a semi-biographical movie about a young man struggling with Islam, and the director himself is Islamic, and it's written about, it's him when he's younger, and he wanted me to play him. So I've been attached to that for a year and a half, and I declined it 3 days ago after a year and a half, and was like, I think you need to find that this is a vehicle for someone else now. That's what came out of that. I don't know. Again, I still question it, because I was like, I could have bought a lot of people to watch that now. So you weigh that up, right?
And so your decision was based on having done Midnight Mass, you felt like that experience of doing that meant you wanted to now make way for someone else to, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't, I never considered it to be an issue when I did Midnight Mass. No one did. I think I was a bit blindsided by some of those comments. But again, like, I don't necessarily, I stand by my decision to do that role. You know, I just think moving forward, I still wanted to take that on board, even if it was 3 people, even if it was 5 people, I still wanted to take that on board and think about it. And I was like, well, doing it once or twice, and he, you know, it was more than just that. Obviously, you know, this wasn't a show about Islam. It had an Islamic character, and it was one of the themes. So I could justify in my head why I was comfortable playing that role. But going forward, like, this is a film about Islam. I'm not the voice, and this could be a good vehicle for someone else. This could be to do something with it. So I've done my. It's not like I'm one and done. You know, I played a doctor, a chef, and a Muslim, and I'm out. It's not like it's a character trait. It's just that it just made me think slightly inward about representation, and you know, I don't know. I haven't really articulated or fully formed my thoughts on it, but I know that when I circled back to the project to restart meetings, because it was firing up for production, I backed out, and I was like, I could help produce, or I could help other things.
And your director, he got it. He understood where you were coming from, because
I think he was super disappointed.
Right.
I think a lot of the funding, a lot of it was to do with, you know, that's what they do, right? They use they use your credits, and I don't know. Like I said, I only did it. I haven't really even spoken about it out loud. I haven't even told my manager yet. So I'll call him after this podcast.
Yeah, I would do this. This comes out tomorrow. I'd hate for him to find out here.
I'll give him a call. But yeah, it was, you know, I don't know. I haven't fully formed it, but it didn't feel right to do again. So anyway.
I mean, we hear about Sheriff Hassan before we actually meet him in the series. In episode 1, it's Ali talking about you to his friends before we actually meet him. This is the first time you've played a father as well, I think.
It is, yeah. Except in a Santander commercial.
Okay, so did you tap back into that experience?
I did. I nailed it. I hit the ground running.
But when we do meet you, I think it's a really, for me anyway, but I'm sure for a lot of people, there is a surefire way to make it very clear that someone is a good character when you first see them on screen, when they're being kind to an animal and you're feeding Joe's dog Pike. And that is your introduction, just placing that dry food in front of him, and you're like, bing.
Yeah.
Hassan's a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's probably, you know, it's probably by design. I think in the script that is the first time. It's not like there was an intro scene that was cut. No, it is. Yeah, it's petting Pike. Yeah, it's amazing. That's how you win over everyone.
Yeah,
just be nice to animals. Which is. Mike doesn't follow his own fucking advice.
Well, let's just get this out of the way right now, because the sooner we get this out of the way, the sooner I feel like I'll. It's the elephant in the room, but holy shit! So I mean, like. Joe, played by Robert Longstreet, another of Flanagan's players, who's just incredible. He was in Hill House, Doctor Sleep. His arc is so tragic, but never more so than in episode 2, where I, along with, I imagine, a hell of a lot of people, were in floods of tears when his dog Pike is poisoned.
Yeah,
he's so good in that scene. And what was that like to watch happening, to be involved in that scene? And have you read all the people going, we need to understand the dog dies? Like, it's almost like a warning. Some people have skipped that bit because they are so affected by that dog dying.
Well, I've been one of the biggest voices on Midnight Mass just through your social media presence. And I take it upon myself to like be vocal and you know, whatever. So I've been mad vocal about shut your mouth, don't spoil the show. If you've watched it, I love you, great, we're super happy. Just shut up, please. Let every audience. The first thing that got out was time codes for when Pike dies. People look out for other people. So they're like, yes, we won't spoil the spoilers, cool, but I'm going to let everyone know on social media when the dog dies.
Yeah.
And I didn't challenge it because I was like, I don't want to get involved with that. Like, people take that shit so, and it look, I love animals. I have a great respect and fear of them. I'm not mean to them, but I also am like, yeah, I don't pet everything. we have like dead children in our show. Not a single fucking time code for that. Do you know what I mean? So it still baffles me.
Yeah, I got myself into trouble on that the other day. I was talking to someone about, you've seen Dr. Sleep. I remember mentioning it to you last time. So there's that horrific scene in that where the kid baseball player gets
Tremblay.
Of course, Jacob Tremblay, and people are like, I couldn't watch it. I had to turn it off. And people were talking to me. They were saying, I can't believe that scene. Should it have even been there? Was it too much? And I'm like, no, it was fine. I didn't get that. I thought it was an important scene. Most filmmakers would cut away. It was important to have it in there. Saying that, if it was a dog, I couldn't have watched it. People don't like that. People don't like it when you say things like that.
No, this is what gets me in this always comes up at like social gatherings and parties because I'm team human, but I'm not. That team human doesn't mean I'm not team animal. I'm just saying there shouldn't be it's all bad.
Yeah.
Right. Not one over the other, but there's this whole thing where it's like, I don't care if I see a baby on screen set on fire, but if you kick a puppy and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't fucking get it. Both suck. Both suck.
Yeah. It's
you should have seen the fucking screening for Dr. Sleep. So that was the third, fourth time I met Mike Flanagan. And Mike's thing of Bly, the first cast thing we did outside of the first dinner was I've hired a theatre in Vancouver and we're going to show the cast and crew a director's cut of Dr. Sleep. This won't be shown in the cinemas, but I want to show you guys. And I didn't want to go because there's horror in it, but team player. And one of the biggest differences in this version that no one saw is the Tremblay scene is extended.
Oh my God.
In a cinema.
Because it's a long scene anyway.
Yeah. And this was longer. And it was just like fucking hell. And I remember looking at I think it was someone in costumes was just like this. And it was awful.
And I get that, and I find it weird, but look, that's my dog on the wall there, and the only good thing that came out of Pike's death was that dog has never had so much love in the 48 hours afterwards. That dog got all the hugs in the world. I was borrowed Joe's line. I was hugging it, going, my baby boy, all because of that fucking scene, man.
And also again, it's the same thing. Like it's the juxtaposition of Sheriff Hassan pets it. Bev King kills it. And if you want people to hate a character, she could do racial slurs at Hassan all day long, and I don't know if everyone in America would care. I think some people would agree, unfortunately. You put that Muslim in place, but with the dog, that's how you unite America. They're like, oh, she needs to die. But that day was funny because it was pretty much shot in order. So it was a big day, lots of coverage, loads of mini scenes going on. You got, Hamish and Zach on the bench, and then Zach and Kate do a lap, and every character's there. And the kids like Igby and Louie and Anara were playing the game over there, whatever they were playing, like a horseshoe. And massive day. And we had this amazing sun. And we're all together. It was one of the only times we were all together. So the conversations were funny, and everyone was, except obviously I didn't, but like everyone was having a good time. And then towards the end of the day, it was, all right, now we need to do this bit. And it was such a fucking bummer. You could just feel everyone Robert sets the tone, screaming Pike. And you got to remember, when Robert's screaming out for Pike, the amount of cuts there are, he had to do that for everyone. Like, he had to do it for me to turn around. He had to, and already it was, this man is like, I've said it to him, he's like an exposed nerve of an actor. He's so raw. I could never tap into whatever the hell Longstreet's tapping into. Like when he has that scene with Anara, and he's just sobbing, especially with men in shows. When guys have to cry, one tear maybe, cover your face, whatever, and Longstreet will stare down the barrel of the lens and just show you his soul and fucks you up. But then he was crying over the real dog, because our real dog, I can't remember the dog's name. I was also isolated from the dog. Everyone got it. The real dog was there in position, and he was doing his thing. And then we brought in the puppet, which it had a big tube coming out of it with someone with bile, and they start yanking it, and it's like everywhere. And it was and then Longstreet was still going. It was awful. It was an awful day, I think, and that's how we left it. Like I don't know, everyone just went home kind of bummed out, and Longstreet, giving Longstreet a hug and stuff. But
yeah. I mean, it serves as an important plot point in the series as well, because I think it's one of the first times we really truly see the power of Bev Keane in the community, because everyone knows she did it, and yet no one would dare go against her. And I mean, in terms of your character, you clearly know the truth. You know what's happened, and yet being the only Muslim in this Christian community, your hands are tied.
That plot point with Pike gave me my favorite scene in the show, which is the storeroom closet scene with Bev.
I was going to say, yeah. So let's talk about that scene. Why is it your favorite scene?
Well, firstly, it was when it was a great scene on the page. It was cut in the show, but it was a great scene anyway. And when you're learning lines, you kind of anticipate how the other person's going to deliver it and whatever, and you're working on your half. You don't meet up, and then when you get to set, and then you see Sam do the lines that just as well, because obviously you had to learn the scene, and they don't come out the same way you anticipated them. The beats she took and the layers and subtext she added was incredible. Like, she just played jazz all over that between, like, it was wild. So that was the first thing when I heard, when we first get it up on its feet on the day of shooting, and Sam's doing what she's doing. And I'm 6'4", and Sam's small, and she made me feel like she was taller than me, if that makes sense. And I was just getting whittled down to size. And what she's done with it is she's lying convincingly enough, but intentionally not bothering to also hide it. So it's a real interesting thing. This duality she's playing, which is like, I just would be, but that's convincing enough, but it's not. Yeah. So it's like a performance and a performance and a performance. And on top of all of that, did she do it? She did it. She's admitting she did it, but she's also keeping up the lie. She also puts veiled threats in the middle of all of it. Like, I mean, you just were able to walk in here and find it yourself. And it's all Hassan does. And it wasn't like, I don't plan an expression. I don't sit there and go, I'm going to post up against the doorframe and smile. That comes organically through what someone else is doing. All I could do through Sam, who was driving that scene, is stand there and just grin, knowing like, oh, fuck, there's nothing, I don't want to do this.
Because that's the bit that really got me. Because obviously, I mean, like you say, that just the pauses she takes, and I love your description, like she played jazz with it. It's when she's like, if that poor dog ingested some accidentally, I'd just be a wreck. And then it's when she goes, are you, pause, certain, I mean, and she knows she's goading you because she knows you have no evidence and there's nothing you can do. And I think that's the point. And it's not like a full smile you give. It's just the very corners of your mouth turn up, because you can't really smile at her, because then sort of she's won, but you are sort of just letting her know that you're aware, but you're also like, again, like you cannot do anything.
Yeah. It's, I think it was like, you're right, the certain thing as well. And that, again, in the script, there's no, ... telling Sam, take a beat. It's just, that's how Sam did it. And obviously with Mike's direction. And I also thought, like, we never really kind of fully etched out between Mike and I when Hassan arrived. He could have been there a full year, I think, but we still assume he's new. But it's never really said. And I really thought about this dude as, you know, he's an NYPD cop at one point. I mean, that's pretty badass. You know, he's used to probably dealing with intimidating New Yorkers. And he goes into a storeroom to pick up, you know, to like, I've got this, to get some info, maybe interrogate this small old lady. And she just slaps him about. He loses that sparring match. And I think it's the first time he was like, okay, nothing prepared me for how despicable this woman is.
Yeah, she's did you ever watch the Stephen King adaptation The Mist?
No, that's on my list.
There's a character in that called Mrs. Carmody, who isn't dissimilar to Bev Keane in so much as she's a very religious woman who uses this mist that descends on this town, as she claims it's God's wrath, and she riles up all the townsfolk and causes murders to happen. And like, I hated her. Bev Keane, I hate more than I hate Mrs. Carmody.
Oh, really?
When you see it, you'll understand what a big statement that is. But
okay.
Yeah, she's phenomenal. Like Samantha Sloan, like, to watch her work must have been quite something.
You want to know the best thing about it? She's fucking hilarious. She's so sweet. There's no shade of Bev in her. Like, there were a couple of comedians on set, Kate Siegel being one, I think Annabeth Gish, Matt Bedell, and Sam was fucking hilarious. So, you know, and she's got the most infectious laugh, and you would do so I'd show up, and she was one of the people I was quite close to on set, and we went to the same gym and had the same personal trainer, so we'd always see each other every day. And yeah, you'd muck around and make jokes with Sam, and then Bev Keane, and it's like, ugh, it's fucking disgusting. And then back to her, and we're so protective of her, because the audience, you know, people are fucking stupid, and you hear nightmare stories about how the public treat someone when they play a character like that. And we're so protective of her. Like, don't you dare don't you dare break that fourth wall. The woman who played her is the sweetest, most pure, lovely, joyous person. And if I'm out with her and I see one lick of someone doing some shit at a grocery store, I'm gonna fucking knock them out, because she's the best. And we're actually going to meet up this week, and I want the best, cutest selfie from the two of us, just so I can put that there, because so many people, particularly like the people that love the sheriff, are like this Islamophobic bitch. And it's like sending me pictures of gun memes and stuff. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But me and her, and it's fake, and we love each other. So yeah.
I mean, you can see why from the performance. I mean, I think it's in the very first episode. I think we first learned that Hassan is a Muslim from Joe, and then more offensively when they have the meeting about the storm from Bev Keane, where she says, unless you plan on hopping a ferry to the mainland, to the mosque, you'll have to hunker down with us. And it's Michael Trucco who plays the mayor. And that this is just the bit I mean. Then
because he made us laugh when he was doing it. You can hear Mike laughing in Video Village. It was the thing. Mike just the way Trucco's just like, I don't know. It just made us laugh on the day, because he just improv'd it, and I know the bit.
It's just that weird thing, because he laughs in disbelief and then has to catch himself, because again, Bev Keane is the power in the community, so he's sort of like this little like, I cannot fucking believe she said that, but actually no, sorry, yep, okay, carry on the meeting. It's brilliant, really nice.
Big shout out to Trucco, because he went full character mode in that. I mean, if anyone has seen Michael Trucco without makeup on, he is classic Hollywood stunning. Like, he's fit as fuck, six-packed, like working out. He's so traveled and has been in so many amazing. I'm a big Battlestar Galactica fan, right? So he was my kind of freak out at the table read. Oh shit. And he just carries himself so well. He's just leading man shit. And then Wade, Scarborough, is this annoying, bumbling everything he did, it was like we were all as actors rooting for him. We were like, fuck yeah, play against type. Yeah, show him what you got. Show him that you can do this and do this full. Anyway, like, yeah, he constantly blew us away on set and just made us laugh and was yeah.
You have that great scene with him, don't you? I mean, first, it's a great scene to watch. I want to know what it was like to film, because at the start of episode two,
yeah,
it's about 7.5 minute single shot take when you're on the beach with him and the cats have washed up, and it's such a long, beautiful, classic Flanagan take. How many times did you do that, and how nerve-wracking is to do that? Because your character Hassan is in it until probably about 30 seconds from the end when Riley and Erin walk off. Yeah,
which also is still part of the same shot. So all in all, I think if I remember correctly, it might have been 12 pages. And there's, hour half, and then there's a handoff as the camera then goes back the other way. So we're still in the scene afterwards, staying in character, getting things done. How was it? Okay, so it was my first day.
That was your first day?
First day, yeah. Thanks, mate. It was Truco's first day. It was a lot of our first day with the character. I thought it was everyone's first day, but as I understand it, Kate and Zach had already been up, and their first day was everything in the boat, in the little rowboat.
God,
that's what I heard in an interview. I can't remember the schedule, so their first day might have been that scene.
Wow.
And I don't know if Mike does it on purpose or if it's just it is what it is. And then our first scene is the oneer, and it's my first time with my accent, and there's no ADR. If I go bruv in the middle of my take, we're fucked. Truco's bumbling because, like, I don't know if you have to see it on the page, but Truco had a lot to say. He was like, "Oh, Starlings," and he's going off. And we also, while we had that beach locked off, we don't have the sea locked off. And every now and again, a giant ship would just ruin it and just like right through. So there was a lot of elements going on, but we did it. 3 takes. We had about three, 4 takes, and I think it was the third that got circled when I think Mike felt like he got it. There may have been a safety, and I think it was take 3 where everything fell into place. And to be honest, it wasn't like 1 and 2 someone blew it and we went back to the beginning. It was just 1 felt all right. 2, okay, I think performance is a bit run in. Nailed it on 3. Let's get 1 for safety. Oh, we shouldn't have done the 1 for safety. That wasn't as good as the 3rd. And then we were done. But it was one of the scariest things I've ever done.
I was going to say, because, the pressure, like, hitting your marks, knowing your lines. I mean, obviously that's your job, but not necessarily for, nearly 10 minutes in one go.
Yeah. It was, but again, it was like, it's kind of smart because when you go through that, I know Truco and I looked at each other after our first day and we were like, oh yeah, we've been through something now. And I felt like everyone felt like that. And it was the first one in the can because we were shut down by COVID. So when we got our table read was Wednesday, March 11th. And then we all got the text on Friday, March 13th. Go home. This production shutting down for 2 weeks. But on that Friday, so if that was Friday, March 13th, on Monday was the beach scene. So that's where we were going to go. It took till August to get back to the beach. So once that was in the can, it was like, all right, we're back. We're doing this. So it was it definitely kind of like raised everyone's kind of morale.
I mean, look, I find Jaws references where there aren't any, but I got major Jaws references from that. To me, you're Chief Brody in that scene because, like,
That's what Mike said.
Oh, really?
It's intentional. Yeah, Chief Brody. Yeah, it's absolutely that with the mayor. It's 100%. That's what he told me.
Fantastic. No, look, a little bit of validation over here.
No, you nailed it, Chief Brody. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's you know it's that this could have been a boating accident. You know, it could be she could have been chopped up by a propeller. It's just you know it's
Yeah, it's Baby
it's
Sharks, our version. It could have been Baby Sharks. You know, maybe we got Baby Sharks.
Oh, lovely. And just because stuff like this fascinates me, what were the cats made of? Like those dead cats? Were they like? Oh, do I not?
No. It was all prosthetics. There was like I believe all the cats were half cats. So they only made one half and buried it in the sand.
Right. Because the gulls are eating them. The gulls are actually eating them. You can see the gulls in the background eating them. So
which are CGI.
Are they?
Oh, there was no gulls on the day. I air kicked nothing. Yeah. I forget there was no gulls when I watched the scene. I was like, because it was dead quiet. It was just the sound of the ocean that day and us talking. It was a very calm, quiet day. And then when you hear it, it's like, but the hero cat, which I pick up, it was a full, like, it was quite heavy as well, but that was a full one.
Okay. Listen,
also, Chief Brody's from New York.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah. There was a lot. It was a little homage. That's Mike's thing, was the Jaws stuff, and my stuff was Joel from The Last of Us. So that was the fusion. But yeah, there's a lot of Chief Brody stuff there.
Because it is, I mean, there is that connection, you know, Chief Brody. I mean, like, and he wasn't an Islander, and no one would take him seriously. And you know, the meeting in Jaws, the PTA meeting in this. Oh, that's good. That's good to know that I wasn't just. Because sometimes I see Jaws where Jaws is not.
No. That's Mike's favorite film. There's all sorts there.
That's cool. We haven't spoken about the angel yet. I guess now would be a good time to talk about the angel. So, in your opinion, what is the angel? If you had to say what you think it is, because I have my feelings about what it is, and I'm sure other people have different ideas about what it is. But this is going somewhere. So just entertain me with what you would put if someone went, "What is the angel? What is it?"
I think it is what it is. I think it's a straight up Nosferatu vampire.
Right.
Something buried and old from olden days, found in a cave in Jerusalem, or you know, because I've been asked that before, and I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not imaginative enough, or it's a demon. I took it as its literal thing that then is, you know, due to Pruitt's dementia and condition and twists what it is and makes out that it's something good when it clearly isn't, but it justifies his real intentions, which is to bring it back for Mildred. Why? What do you think it is?
No, I do. I think it's a vampire as well. I just find it very fascinating because it's one of the interesting things about the show, in that you have this island of people and there's this thing, and at times it's so darkly funny, like when they put the robe on it and it enters the church and everyone sees it for the first time. Like it's hilarious and terrifying in equal measure. Just the fact that, you know, the sort of this obscenity that has been dressed in a fucking cloak.
But that's a great metaphor.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get political, but a lot of awful politicians know that if they veil stuff and make sure that they, you know, God bless what we're doing, and, you know, oh, it's fine. You know, Trump bumbling through whether he prefers the Old Testament or the New Testament. It's a great example of our angel dressed in the robes.
I think it's a vampire. It's sort of, I guess there are two ways of looking at it. It's like, obviously no one in the village, despite sort of like everyone having the traits of vampires, drinking blood, being affected by sunlight,
no garlic.
You sort of go, oh, so how come no one ever sort of thinks this could be a vampire? So I wondered whether it had been discussed and whether that was the case of, well, you know, in this reality, vampires don't exist. Vampire mythology doesn't exist. Or it was a case of, if you are in such a devoutly Christian community,
it'd be blasphemous to call an angel
exactly.
Yeah.
Like people would, vampire, it's mythology, it's monsters, it's nonsense. So if you're in a devout religious community, you're never even going to entertain the idea of vampires existing, so it wouldn't be on your radar.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to ask Mike, because I don't think I ever really spoke to him about why the V word is never said. I have no idea, but the take I did, the reason why I assume no one's ever using the V word is basically because it's blasphemous. Like, it's an angel.
Yeah.
Father Paul doesn't ever call it that. And when it's introduced to the people, like the first time we see the angel is at mass, right? And they're just in disbelief. No one's talking about it.
And of course,
obviously, Sheriff Hassan's the first person to clock it down. He sees it waiting for him, which, by the way, in real life was terrifying, because I had met Quentin, who plays the angel, before. He came to set, and we were cracking up because Quentin, there's no big like, he couldn't wear clothes. He's head to toe in prosthetics. So I think he would just come into the green room with Ugg boots on, is the best they could give him. So it's the angel, no wings, Ugg boots, and no teeth, just his normal teeth, because he's wearing obviously dentures, and he's just really sweet. He's like, "Hey everyone, nice to meet you." And I'm, like I said, I'm 6'4". Quentin's 7 foot, I believe. And I don't really meet people that often that are taller than me. So I was already sort of on my, when my eye line's up on someone when I'm walking, it already kind of, I'm off center slightly. So we were all taking dumb selfies with him. I have one that I haven't posted yet. But on the day when they put Quentin there at the back, as I turn, and then he like, it was very easy to be stopped in your tracks as Quentin stood there. And then I remember he'd take it wasn't like it was blocked. We didn't block this part, but as soon as Quentin took his first step towards me, I backed the fuck up. Like, it was just my instincts was to, and then push little Rahul to get the fuck back in the pews, like, get back. And as I would get into my thing, camera makes space, distorts space, but as I'm back in and I'm on the edge, Quentin would give me this death stare, almost just a few feet away from me. He would look as he'd go through, and it would, like, I could get the same feeling, like, of chills. But someone on Twitter said something funny about that scene. They were like, all them Christians and white folk, when the angel is there, are in disbelief but orderly, and in awe of him, of this angel, demonic angel. But when the Muslim sheriff takes a gun out and fires it, everyone loses their minds, and they were more scared of the Muslim sheriff than they were the angel, which I thought was super fun.
Yeah, it's that's an incredible scene. I'll tell you another really beautiful scene is when you go to speak to Joe at his trailer. And it's the scene where you're the first person in the community to take his side, and he can't believe it when he's talking to you. And I think you say something like, "You're not wrong about Bev Key."
Yeah.
And that's just such a great moment. I mean, Joe's arc is heartbreakingly tragic.
It is. It really is. I think it's the first time I think we all are on Father Paul's side. We're with him. Even when he's curing, we don't know how it's happening, but he's very much the hero of our piece. And then it's Joe where we're like, when you've lost me. I don't care how compelled you were, you've lost us already, because Joe is the heart of our island. He's all
And it's, I mean, again, it's funny. It is funny when Bev finds Joe dead on the floor with. And
I know what you're going to say as well.
Father Paul's just got blood round his fucking mouth, and
she keeps calling Joe it.
Yep.
I always thought that was awful. Like when I watched the scene and she's like, put it in the carpet and dump it, and I was like, oh.
And what does she say? She says, okay, we need to get you cleaned up and get you to church. And that is her response to that scene. That is her reaction to that scene.
Yeah.
It's it's something else. So you touched on this already, but I think it is worth going over it one last time, just because the classroom scene, the meeting, and the way Bev speaks to you, and the the way you have to keep your cool and the way you have to react to some of what she's saying. I think when she says, I think it's the bit where you sort of say, look, if I said anything close to what you've said to me, you'd run me out of town.
Yeah.
And she says, I wouldn't run you out of town. And it makes me sad that you would think that. And from dominating that meeting and sort of being this sort of like figurehead, the old switcheroo, and suddenly she's the victim, and you're the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's an incredible scene.
I've been there a million times. It's happened. It's happened with racially, it's happened. I've stood up for myself, and I've watched someone do that, and it happened on a show with a colleague. Yeah, an old show, and the same flip happened on me, and I was like, and everyone sided, and I stood there, and it was fucking And Mike had said to me about that scene, which was his words of encouragement, was when you're sitting in that in a children's desk, because I'm massive, right? we were still in kids' classrooms, so the chairs were tiny, and Bev is going for it, and she turns everyone, and she riles up the people, and it's Erin and the sheriff have exchanged a look. Mike was like, every time on your reaction, I could see you saying in your head, dignity, dignity, and it broke Mike's heart, because it doesn't feel like a moment to have, like he's been robbed of his dignity again while he sits there in a classroom. It's funny when I see that scene, because I do actually get sad for Hassan, and it's one of the only times where I don't see me and think about and know that day I had sausages, or I was fucking around on my phone watching trailers or whatever. Like, it's the one time it breaks for me, and I see his face with the music, and as he just has to eat one. Yeah. And it breaks my heart, because again, it does trigger me, and I've been in that position multiple times, and yeah, it sucks. Yeah,
I think your look at the very end, I think to the last look, I think the camera holds on you just before the scene ends, and it is just your face, and it's a defeated man. It's like there is, I have nothing to do here. Like, there is nothing I can say.
And his argument was so like calm and for Christian, like, it was about togetherness. It was about, I'm actually cool with this. We're actually close, some more similar than you realize. I'm just saying, hey, I don't know if this should be part of our curriculum, is all. And then the way that got twisted, and it's sad. It's sad because, but again, the main thing was, and this was always in my head with Hassan, was you don't raise your voice, you don't intimidate. It's all from that monologue. I don't intimidate. So and that was one of the type, and I think I mentioned it earlier, and I can kind of summarize what I was trying to achieve on this show, but I never wanted Hassan to look aggressive or the bad guy, because of how that can be quickly misinterpreted, even by audiences. If I really stood up to Bev King and took a scene to a 10, I could scare the fuck out of people. I know that. So I always made sure that the sheriff, we pull back. Never a 10. Never a 10. Always a 3. Always a 2. And for an actor, that's frustrating. And it goes back to the first question where you were talking about why I said this wasn't not my favorite character. I meant my favorite experience. I looked, and I learned this from an actor. I learned it from Malcolm Goodwin on iZombie, who taught me about the marathon, not the sprint, when you make a show. Okay. A lot of actors take it episode by episode and give it their all. And they go, here's my moment. Here's my moment. Here's my moment. I'm going to give a 10 on all these scenes. And a lot of the time it doesn't work. And what Mac was trying to get me to do was look at your entire arc and go through and go, there's your moment, and commit to that. And what it meant was for 6 months. So I had this idea, and sorry if this is very long-winded, but
no,
I had this thing where when I looked at the character, I saw a lion. That was when I first read. I was like, he's a lion. I made him a Leo. I put a scar on him because of Leonidas from 300. There was a lot of lion stuff going on here, but I was like, and this man was a lion in New York and where he was before. He's a strong man. And now when he's on Crockett Island, he's in captivity. He's a circus lion. And they pay money to look at him and point and go, look at this foreign beast thing. And they pet him and they whisper about him, and he plays his role too. So he allows everyone to tame him. He does tricks. He's just behind whatever. So I committed to this idea of the lion in captivity, or the lion at the circus performing for the audience, until, and we shot this scene in December. So I had to wait until the last week of filming was until you touch his cub and that lion snaps and he eats his trainer. And that was the church. And it was that moment that I screamed. And I took the line from Lisa Scarborough, where she said, I heard my father scream and make a noise I'd never heard before. And I noted that. I was like, I'm going to echo that myself. So when Ali drinks and he doesn't know he's taken communion because Ali was lying, I tried to scream in a way, and we have multiple takes, screams that were awful, that just didn't even sound like Hassan. And my action was, there was a lot more. I think I had the most kind of movements in that action sequence, where I just went fucking wild and was throwing stuntmen into pews and grabbing them by their necks. And that was my Hassan lion. That was I'm gonna turn on this circus and I'm gonna eat the audience. So to wait 6 months of playing Smiles to Bev Keane, to not get into a good passionate exchange as an actor with someone and feel like, oh, we got heated, even in my monologue, to never shout at Sarah Gunning and just to play it measured, just so I could make that moment in the church mean something. Wasn't rewarding as an actor, but was rewarding once I finished and watched it back and went, that was the right choice. It was the right choice for me. Again, like I said, actors just want, we do want to just get there, fight, scream, shout, cry, and feel like we acted, when you go home. And I never felt that on that show because I was committing to this idea. So that was my analysis of the character. That was what I had in my mind for the character.
Well, in terms of that analogy and your cub being Ali, your son, the relationship you have with him, it's interesting. You said at the start about how you he sometimes didn't know where he stood with his father, so you sort of didn't ever give him that kind of fatherly sort of reassurance off camera, because I to watch it is to see quite a beautiful father-son relationship, whether it's in, I think it's episode 1 where he's just like, kiss your mother, and he kisses the photograph, and I think it's episode 4 when he's talking to his son, and Ali now wants to go to church, and he says, I'm not going to stop my son finding God. And it's an incredibly, you really do feel that there is so much love between that father and son.
Yeah, for sure. But they're not on the same page.
No,
there's no denying that they love each other, and Ali loves Hassan and Hassan loves Ali. But I always questioned, there's things that are cut from the script, obviously, for time, but Ali also alludes to it in the show, which is, you only became a Muslim for Mum. And
so was there more of that previously?
It was in my monologue. I talked about Ali being born and my wife being devout and helping me find religion and helping me find God, and then us sending Ali to school. So in my head, it was always, I am honoring my wife's wishes. We do this. In the back of my head, not to take it away from Hassan, but I think one of the biggest reasons he was also holding on to that was because it was almost like his duty as a widower to maintain this to maintain this structure that they had, that his wife was was instrumental in creating, and was her wish. He still and again, it was so important to try and convey this, and I think Mike nailed it. We never wanted Islam to look oppressive. All these fucking shows do this thing where it's like, and then the kid starts rebelling against Islam because Islam is so oppressive, and the father wants to beat his ass. And it's like, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's like, I respect it. I respect you as a man. I respect the choices that you want to make. I think I would prefer if you didn't. I think what we have is the one, but go out and educate yourself. It's okay. But the reason why it's a little bit more, I think, here in him, the reason why it hits him a little different is that I think he sees himself as a bit of a failure to his wife. I think he starts to see Ali pull away. Ali's pulling away, and it's almost like, have I failed as a husband? In my failures as a father, in keeping him safe, and keeping this bond that we have, which is also our religion, have I failed her? Is she judging me? And so, like, while there is love between them, they do split. And at some point I ask myself, like, why is Hassan still praying? Is it for him, or is it his wife? And I felt that the wife had a lot to do with it, himself too, but I felt like his wife's influence and his love for her also was a motivation. And I think Ali was doing it too, for his mother, but also for his father. And that's why he was so easily interested by the miracles and all the glittery lights of these Father Paul miracles. But the beautiful thing is, when we circle back to the end, at that moment on the beach, they're both doing it for the exact same reason. And they're both doing it for each other. And there is no question of why they're doing their morning prayer. And that's where they finally see eye to eye. That's where they're on the same page. He's not doing it because of his wife. He's not doing it because of his dad's wishes. It's because they both want to be there at that moment, with their beliefs together as father and son. So that's where I think, like I said, he didn't really know they knew each other and they loved each other, but they weren't. Yeah.
We'll talk about well, we should talk about that last scene. We'll come to it, because I thought we'd end with that last scene, because obviously it's Hassan's last scene. But before then, I mean, a scene that you weren't involved in, but of course you watched it with Mike. In fact, what was it like watching it with Mike? Does he watch you watching it? Do you watch him watching it? Is he as nervous as you were watching it?
I don't know. I didn't feel like Mike was watching me, but we'd pause a few times and and talk about what we just saw. And it was usually about other actors. It wasn't about me or my scenes. It was usually like, Jesus, did you just see that from Henry? This song's incredible. Can I Shazam it? And it's all Neil Diamond and stuff. Like, so it wasn't like I watched it complete, but I looked at Mike a couple of times because fucking Hamish had made me cry. And Anara made me cry big time. Anara made me cry. Same ep. The first homily that Father Paul does in episode 2 about Psalms. I'm an atheist. I wasn't brought up Catholic. When Hamish did his first homily, I got like the hair stood up on the back of my neck. The music as it swells as he talks about singing and praising, and I was like, oh, I'd sign up to this. If I heard this when I was younger, I'd have been like, I want to convert. He destroyed when he first goes Body of Christ to Anara, to Lisa, and it's just out of reach, but she doesn't see what's about to happen, so she's like, yeah, and she realizes that he won't lower it. The look of vulnerability on her face, the feeling that she might just be being bullied right now, tapped into something for me as a kid and my childhood, and I just burst into tears. I've seen that. I've been that kid. When you trust an adult and they're fucking with you. I looked at Mike and I was just like that. I was fucking tears. Anara, just her face, her vulnerability, it just broke me. Her hope that this isn't happening. This is a good man. And then she stands, and all of it just was a flood of emotions. And the other time I stopped because I was crying was Hamish talking to Mildred, where he was like, I did this for you because I didn't want to lose you. And the way Hamish does it, just again, like, it just destroyed me when it all came down to just his love for Mildred. And look at all and everyone can relate to that. You know, that's Anakin Skywalker. I knew I could slip a Star Wars reference in, but look at all the destruction and devastation I did because I loved someone and I couldn't let go. And Mildred was happy to be like, no, this is wrong. You shouldn't have done this for me, for Sarah, for anyone. This wasn't worth it. And he couldn't see that. And Hamish again just fucking broke me. Kate did it. Zach did it. They all did. Longstreet did it. There's the amount of times I was crying in that show.
Yeah, I cried a lot as well. Again, one of the ones, you know, I think it was those 4 words that Riley says to Erin on the boat, you know, I did my best. It's like, ouch. And then, I mean, that whole scene, I won't lie to you. I mean, I don't know whether I'm just too cynical, but that scene starts and I'm like, why have they rowed out there? And I'm thinking maybe he plans to, like, not kill her and eat her because he does love her, but at least turn her because he wants her them to be together forever and ever and ever. And so he knows that that's what will happen if he bites her. And then, you know, it wasn't too far into it for me to look like a complete moron, but I then suddenly went, oh, fuck, that's what he's going to do.
Witness me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an incredible scene.
And then, like, Kate's scream. I haven't seen someone do it like that on screen. Like, she's fucking phenomenal, but the scream is so guttural and raw. And then it's the profile shot you get, because the way they do it, which I love, is that the light is on Riley and it's Zach as he is, and he sees Tara Beth, right? And she takes his hand. And I was like, because obviously I read it, but you don't know how things are going to change later on. Like, even my death scene's different in the script as it is to that. But I was like, oh, maybe we don't see Riley burn up. Maybe there was budget cuts, or Mike thought this is the best way to do it. But then it cuts to Kate screaming, and then a profile shot of his fucking head on fire. And then, you know, because Mike, you know, loves his audience and doesn't like to traumatize them, forgoes any type of credit seek music and goes just for Kate screaming throughout the credits. It was fucking awful, but it broke me. Zach was, they were both so amazing in that scene.
Yeah, no, my other half went, oh my God, I can't believe that they showed that. It's like the Doctor Sleep thing. And I'm like, but that's why it's amazing, because, you know, there are different ways to do it, but to sort of go, but, you know, see what she sees, like, see what actually happens. It's great. So look, we start episode 6 with arguably, like, I mean, you have so many different moments in this. I don't want to say your biggest moment, but certainly your biggest speech, which is the monologue, which has been rightly hailed as like possibly one of the best pieces of writing in terms of establishing what it was like to be Muslim in America after 9/11. I don't know whether I've spent a lot of time digging around Midnight Mass because I've become obsessed with it and all the themes and what people are writing about and talking about. But yeah, there's been more than one article talking about just the importance of this scene and how this isn't talked about very much. I guess that comes with responsibility for you. How did you approach that scene? How did you get your head around that? How did you want to, I guess, understand what you were talking about and this idea? I mean, I don't know. I don't know whether it's fiction or whether it's partly true that this idea of Muslim officers being promoted and then people panicking. And I think you use 2 swears in that whole speech. You say they fucking panicked, and later on they still think
Osama
I'm a
bin fucking Laden.
yeah.
So that scene was Mike's forwarded me an article. I don't know. It was on my old phone, but it's taken from a real article. It's taken from real Muslim police officers. This is what happened during post 9/11. So that's what Mike wrote. Mike wrote the story. This is what was going down. So what he's saying is based in truth. For me, so obviously I had that, and I spent a lot of time on YouTube, which has been one of the best acting tools since Stanislavski. I was able to like find interviews and other pieces about Muslim police officers. The thing is as well, this was all going down during after George Floyd was murdered by the police. So my opinion of the police at that point was at its lowest. And I was like, I don't know, like Hassan's a good guy because he's a good guy. He's not a good guy because of the badge. I'm not making cop pornography. I don't want to make cop pornography right now anyway. But so it was, so I knew that story was grounded in truth. Where what I had tapped into, what was important to me was I was 14 or 15 when the World Trade Centers were attacked. And much like what Hassan says, everything changed. And it changed for me, a British-born Indian. Every time, even now, I'm randomly searched, more randomly than my co-stars when we fly. I remember when I was at the National Theatre and I was playing a Mujahideen, and so I had grown out my hair and had a beard, and I remember going into a party, and the first thing someone said to me was like, "Oh look, fucking shoe bombers arrived." Jeez. These are very common stuff, and again, there was no separation between Muhammad, the 2 Muhammads, and myself as a group, as a trio. We experienced it all together. Every racial slur. We were once spat on in Norfolk by a moving car. This is all post 9/11. So those words, while I'm not Muslim myself, the ignorance and the hate towards brown people. I mean, famously, like almost immediately after the towers went down, an American Sikh wearing a turban was murdered. I mean, this is how broad Islamophobia is. So there was that meant, that was obviously, that was one of the few monologues in my life that I've delivered that came from a personal place. But that day was tough because I didn't have a dialect coach on set. I'm not sure why. I think it was COVID related, but we couldn't have a dialect coach. So the first time I'm ever doing an American accent and no one's there for me was tough. Yeah, I had Zoom calls with the dialect coach. His name was Jerome Butler. But we would only have those a few days before filming, and then that's it. You get to go. And Mike would be there. Mike's great. He'd pick up on fuck ups. But I knew we were doing it in a wanna. It was later cut between myself and Annabeth's reactions and stuff, but it was a wanna. It was the day that Blind Manor came out. So I was staying off the internet. And it was also a day that Mike wasn't able to be on set due to having a cold. He had a cold. That was all it was. But because of COVID guidelines, he wasn't allowed to be on set. So I was directed from a van on a walkie-talkie.
Oh my
God.
God.
Again, when I talk to you about anxiety and stress, they would have there was a walkie-talkie on the desk, and Mike would be like, "That's great, Rahul. On this line, maybe you want to put this," and that's how we did it.
So the biggest, I mean, I might be wrong, but certainly one of the biggest
it was important
moments of your career on screen, and your director's not there, and you don't have a dialect coach doing an American accent for the first time.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Wow.
But Mike's, he had I still always felt like he had my back, and I downplayed how scared I was because of the COVID guidelines. Like, Mike was obviously gutted. He's like, I can't be there with him. Like, what do I have to be in a van? this is his big moment, and I didn't show any fear because I didn't want him to feel like bad. I didn't want Mike to feel bad. I didn't want Mike to be like, well, for fuck's like. So I was like, I got it. I'm cool, bruv. This is fine. Inside. And then when we finished, I'll leave it on a lighter note. The store, so everything on this island was built, right? It was built in Vancouver. And we did it like Hobbiton. So Crockett Island, particularly the town square and all the place, that's why you see these gorgeous wonders that go through the town. It's because it was built for real. Not only was it built for real, the COVID suspension actually weathered it because it was left unguarded for 5 months. So when we came back, it looked legit. It just had this extra level of real world weathering from the elements. And in any other show, if you think about the entrance of Hassan, when Hassan pets the dog, he's outside near the town square, which obviously is our set. It's not a location like we found a town. This is just empty farmland that they built on. I go into the convenience store, and in any other show, you would be then in a studio. Nope, that's still there. And then when I go to the back of the convenience store and I open the door, and you cut to me being in the sheriff's office, again, not a studio. Still, I'm on location, and that was the same for a lot of those houses. They were fully working interiors and exteriors. I mean, the set, it was incredible. That being said, again, because of COVID restrictions, craft services was a mile that way. It was just a bitch to get to, right? Because they were so far away, and then you'd have to mask up just to go and walk over there. People were stealing from the grocery store. It was real Skittles. It was real crisps. All of it was real. So I remember one of the best ADs I've ever worked with, his name's Morgan. He was pissed, and he was like, can people stop fucking eating from go to craft services, go get your Doritos over there. You're not supposed to be stealing from set deck. And Morgan's a sweetheart, so it's always said with humor. I call it my flanologue. I had my Mike Flanagan monologue day, and I liken it to when it's your birthday at the office and your chair's got glitter on it and you're not going to do any fucking work, and you bring in cakes and you just make everyone else try and take an unpaid holiday at work. Sorry, a paid holiday at work because it's your birthday. That's what the energy I like to bring on set when it's my flanologue, which is it's my fucking day. I didn't come in like everyone. I am the king for the day. You will do what I say. I'll do what I want. If I want to smoke a little bit too close to set, I'll do it because it's my flanologue, and it's the most diva I am is a flanologue day. So that's how I was on that day. And when we finished, and I did it, and I got through all of it, and not only did I get through all of it, but Mike sounded happy about it, and Annabeth was like, "This was great. This was such a good scene." I went out to the grocery store, and Morgan was standing there, and I was like, "It's my fucking flanologue day. You understand? You see these Skittles? I'm gonna steal them in front of you, and I'm gonna eat them, and there's nothing you could do about it, Morgan." And he was like, "Okay, whatever." And I took a Skittle. These had been out for months. I didn't realize I was chewing on pebbles. First Skittle knocked my crowns out. And I was like, "Oh," hold it. Giant crown just in my hand, and Morgan was like, "What the fuck?" So it became this cautionary tale where Morgan was like, "You don't eat the fucking snacks." Rahul lost teeth doing it. That was my monologue there.
Oh man. Oh, it's to go back to what you were saying earlier about obviously Hassan keeps his cool. You didn't want to ever play him aggressive, even in that scene when you're talking, about your history and why. How can you be expected to approach the church, investigate the church on the island? You still are calm, but it is the first time we hear you swear, and both swears are well placed, and they take the place of actual anger, because a well-dropped swear by a character that hasn't done that before, delivered calmly, it has the same effect, I think, as you raising your voice.
Yeah, absolutely. They are pointed for sure, and they fucking panicked. Is the
they
first
land
one
well? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was important. Like that was the time to like be passionate, be emotionally invested, show that Hassan is carrying. You know, he's not perfect. He's carrying hate. He's carrying anger. He hasn't got over these things. They're very much present. But don't go into just shouty, angry man. That was something I always was steered away from. And yeah, and it's funny as well because I remember after playing that character, Trevor Macy, who's Mike's creative partner and our producer, Trevor I went out for dinner with Trevor, and he was just like, I think I told you. Yeah, it comes back to the first podcast we did where he was like, I want to see you play a prick. Because he knows it's there. But every damn show wants me to be a sweetheart and wants me to fucking be the cheeky chappy with the moustache or the morgue doctor. And I think Mike and Trevor are like, we want to start playing some fucking awful characters. I'm dying to do it finally. I haven't done it since theatre. So hopefully.
Have you got any plans? Have they spoken to you about anything, or is it all just nice shrug?
Chats.
Nice shrug. Good. I like that. We're kind of on the final straight now. We're into the final straight because we touched on the scene in the church where the angel appears, and I mean you're fantastic in that, and the whole thing of having to watch it's sort of such a freaking double whammy because not only have you lost your son, Ali Hassan has lost his son to the church, and Bev is using that against him. She's like, thank you for setting an example, choosing God in the face of pressure from his own father, like rubbing your face in it while you're pinned to the ground.
Yeah.
And then you have to watch him die as well.
Yeah.
What was it like being part of that scene? And I imagine you had to rehearse that a lot. I mean, because it's quite a lot of physical action in that scene as well.
Yeah. Oh, and then there's 7 foot Quentin as a demon in the background of all of it. Yeah. It was fun, man. It was the one time I was like, the gloves are off. This is what you waited 6 months to do, man. Don't fucking hold back. Hamish, every day you heard rumblings of, I wasn't at mass. So when I left, when they all started doing, because all the mass stuff was done back to back to back to back because of because that's how they usually do it. So when I came back, these lot were like a congregation anyway. I came back and they had card games and private jokes and stuff. And I'm like, hey guys. And it was like the church, I didn't know these people any, they had developed their own bond, and Hamish owned that space. So it felt nice to come in and pop off a gun and scream and shout and take over the church for a little bit. So that was that, like I said, I'd been Clint Eastering it the whole time. Okay. Playing it like that. And then to so it was nerve wracking because, like I said, it was 200 people staring at me and it was my turn to do something. So I gave it everything. We had the stunt guys tackle me. We had to do it way more times than we needed to for technical reasons. But I would play it we'd yell action from when I leave the pew, and we wouldn't wrap that scene until Ali's dead, because the camera would come down with me as I hit the deck. So I was doing these long takes and again, it's always interesting when you see what ends up on camera. The more subdued ones are what ended up there. There were some real 11s thrashing. I know that I had asked the stunt guys, because Mike was awesome with like, what do you want to do with the guys, and we were all there figuring it out. So we got the tackle down, and they wrestled me down, and I asked the stunt guy, I was like, can he pull my hair just to motivate to keep my head up? So the stunt guy would just make a fist and then just place it there. Or at least just gently have it, but I'd control it, right? And I remember Hamish reacting to it. Or maybe I was trying to show off because I was insecure. But I would, every time, full-blown smash my head into the wood on the floor and make it look like the stunt he had whacked my face with this, and it never played. So when I get down to stun me, I would just then, with everything I had pinned down, I would just go and smash my face onto the thing, and you'd hear this thump. And I remember Hamish was like, "Oh, fuck's sake." Mike never used it anyway, because I was just like, it's my time. Like, these motherfuckers been out acting me for 6 months. Yeah, I was battered by the end of it. And then it was the cool thing again. I love Mike. So me and stunt coordinator and the stuntmen went private for a bit, and we're like, well, what do we do? I'm pinned. Where do we go from here? So we start figuring it out ourselves. And I was like, well, if someone tackles you off my left's free. I'll flip onto my back. I'll double foot kick the guy who's on my back, and I'll grab him by the throat. So, and it all gets chopped up, but that was the movement to get me out of there. And then it was, go over here, punch Sturge, which I did once actually do. And Matt's nose was,
I saw that picture.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were doing it 100 times, and all it takes is for one of us. I don't even know how it happens. You just got to be a millimeter off. Either he lands here or I land there, and it happens. And that sequence would start. Truco would always start that sequence off with him grabbing this stunt person, throwing her into a pew, and then eating her. That would be our, like, we're off to the races, and then everyone would have their action, which had been choreographed, and we would do it all at the same time, and it wouldn't stop. A bunch of us would clear out the back into the back of the church and shut the door. That was us done. That's where we would then go while they're still carrying on in there, until you'd hear cut, and then we'd come back out. So it was a really long take, and it was wild. I mean, it was our last week, and COVID cases were going up, and I start the day off with 3 people we're spitting on each other, basically. And people are throwing up. I mean, this is like, it's December 2020. Anyway, and like before every scene, I would put in my headphones, which was this is geeky. Nurse and Protect is the name of the song, and it's from The Mandalorian season 1. And it's the sequence when Pedro would come out into the open, shoot a couple of dudes, deflect, and start beating death troopers down. So I'd have that blasting in my head on my AirPod before we do the take, because I was just like, you're a fucking hero, you're a fucking hero. This is your moment. And then, we would do that sequence. One time I felt contact, something, but we carried on. Matt falls back into the pews, and I've still got a half a scene to go. So I grab the other stunt dude, and I throw him, and I throw a few others, and then I grab Igby, who plays Warren, and I drag him through the doors. I shut the door, and the first thing I said to Kate, I think I hit Matt. And you wait for minutes, and then they yell cut. I run out straight to Matt, and he's just got blood down, and I was fucking mortified. I don't know how it happened. I think it was a follow through. I think this part, the punch didn't. I think he got the worst bit, which was the follow through. I felt sick. He was dope. He's just like, yeah. And then they were tending to him. I didn't know what to do. I kept apologizing, and Matt was just dope. And I went and I had Uber Eats or whatever deliver Guinness, and I put it with a little apology note in his trailer. So when he got to his trailer, there was cold Guinnesses in there, and apparently him and Truco cracked one at the end of the day. But it was wild. It was one of my favorite days on the set. And then I also twisted my knee quite badly.
Doing what?
I just got up weird. I don't know if my foot was pinned back by someone lying on the floor, or if my boot gave way, but there was one take towards the end, as Kate helps me up. I just had this shooting pain in my kneecap, and I was like, I thought I'd done some terrible ligament damage. I hit the deck quietly, and it takes a second for everyone to notice that Rahul's not on his mark, and Kate's like going, stop, and then everyone clears out. I wait. I'm not saying anything, and it's just this blinding pain in my knee. Mike comes over, and everyone comes over, and they call medical, and they're looking at it, and it swells up a bit. We ice it. I think they were thinking of just calling it a day with me, maybe using a stunt guy, but I didn't want it. And it started to be okay. It started to numb up. So we carried on. And I think Mike was like, well, you don't need to get up anymore. We got that bit. But what happened was everyone rapped after the church. That's how we finished midnight mass, was the church, except me. The one day that kept getting shifted in the schedule was interior Hassan's house. So that's every damn scene from 7 Eps that takes place between Ali and I was left until the final day. So we all rapped. We said our goodbyes on the weekend. Everyone was, emotional. But I and little Rahul still needed to come back with Mike and do our day. And it was just me and him. And my knee was busted. And obviously on the day, adrenaline, it was fine. After the next day, I couldn't walk on it. And I had 3 different versions of my prayers to do on my kneecaps. And
of course,
so I saw tweets. So I just want to put this out. I want to clip this part so I can put it on Twitter. Some people were like, why does the prayers look inaccurate because Rahul looks so stiff? And so I'm like, hey, so let me just tell you something. Every time I had to be on my knees and drop, it was like someone was twisting a dagger into my kneecap, and they had put foam underneath my prayer mat just to cushion it slightly. And anytime we fucked up, anytime, it was slightly off or we need to reset for whatever reason, I was just on it in agony. And then a lot of the scenes I'd have to get up and carry on acting and doing whatever. So all of those Hassan scenes, I'm bandaged up on my knee. I think I'm even standing funny in one of the scenes. When we would do our prayers, as I'd go down and my head would touch the carpet, there was always like a back up. It was a stressful day. And the second thing I'll say about that is everyone's like, your fucking accent when you said Christian, I want it on record. I know how to say it. It's Christian. However, Mike, because he's a genius, when other people say other names for religions, like they say Muslim and Islam, they do it all wrong, right? He wanted a parallel note. I say Christian. He wanted it to sound foreign in my mouth, different from them, just like how Muslim sounds foreign in their mouths, different from me. So I'm getting a lot of shit for it.
Wow.
And I'd never throw my boss but I'm actually throwing Mike under the bus because I'm saying that's how hyper specific and the details he likes to leave in there.
That's great. So your final prayer, though, which we should talk about.
Oh, yeah.
This is the final time I cried. This whole climax to Midnight Mass is just one of the most unbelievable
with
things.
The Titanic music. Because
yeah.
it's the last song that the violinist plays.
It's the same song. Yeah, nearer to thee, my God. Is that it? Nearer to thee, thy God. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been listening to the soundtrack for the last week. It's on there.
So, I mean, it's beautiful because obviously you like you said earlier, you and Ali are reunited. You're together there. You're praying together. You've been shot by Bev. It's a stomach wound. You're clearly going to die.
Yeah.
And just that bit where you sort of slump over to the side, and it happens in exactly the right order. Because after everything they've been through, the big fear would be that Ali would burn before Hassan died. And it's so important that Hassan does die.
I never thought about that. You're right. Yeah. Because he doesn't need to watch that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. After everything he's been through. And the way the hymn ends, the fact that it just stops before the very last word because everyone's dead.
Yeah.
Hell of an ending.
It was written expressly like that. I remember at the table read, Mike read the stage direction, and then on his phone, because we did all 7 episodes back to back in the table read. It's the longest table read I've ever been in.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long day, and this was 2 days before COVID. 17 of us had just flown in, and we're like, it's fine, and everyone was fine. But we did all 7 eps back to back, and then Mike had put the song on his phone and was like, close up this, close up that, the town this. I mean, beat for beat for beat for beat, it was there. So Mike always had that ending. The only thing that was different was 2 changes from my side. I think this came from, I want to give credit where credit's due. I think this came from a conversation between Mike and Bo or me. all three of us. Let's just say the team Hassan, which is Mike, Bowen, myself, and Adam Mohammed. The prayer, when you do the prayer, the elder who leads prayer stands on the left, and the young'uns will stay on the right. And I think it was either, again, I don't want to, who gives a fuck who suggested it? Doesn't matter. Point being, at the final beat, we switch their positions. So Ali leads, which you don't see in the show because it's Hassan always leads it. But at this point, Ali leads the prayer. It's his moment to take over and be the leader of the house. So that was the first thing, which I loved the symbolism there. So hopefully people noticed that. The second thing was Mike had expressly written that they both kneel for prayer, they bow down, and then they rise and they go down, and then only Ali rises.
Right.
And that's it. So that's how I thought it was always going to be, was I don't need to worry about how I slump or anything, because you don't see Hassan slump. You just see Ali come back up, which is quite poetic. I don't know. It's kind of.
I thought that was going. I thought it was going to end like that. I anticipated that, but then I thought maybe it looks quite strange. Like I wondered if you needed the slump because I don't know. Dignified isn't the right word, but just to see someone sort of like, I wouldn't be sure if Hassan was dead, and it's quite an odd place to leave him positionally.
Sure. Maybe that's I actually never got to ask Mike that. It just slipped my mind. Why did you choose? Because what had happened was, it's all real weird stuff, but like as an actor, I got to make sense. I don't want anything to look stupid, right? And especially death. If like watch Dark Knight Rises, for instance, there are some final deaths that look weird. Like it's it's always in the back of your mind. You want to make sure it has the right meaning and moment. So we shot in two locations. We shot on the beach, on a real beach in Vancouver. Rahul and I, quite early. I think I did this quite early into our filming. So we do it with the real sunrise was done. So we did it for real. And, you know, we're doing our prayer. And then at some point, you know, Mike's like, and Hassan dies. And I tried to find the most dignified way of collapsing, knowing it wasn't going to get used, but just to make it one concise. And it's harder than it sounds. But so anyway, so I do the slump and hold it, knowing I'm not in frame, I'm not going to be used. And then when we were then shooting our close-ups, we did that on a stage and on blue screen or green screen or whatever. And I just mimicked the same action from what we did. And then when it arrived, the whole thing Mike had written where it was like, and then Ali rises and Hassan doesn't, and it was just my slump. I was like, oh. So I'm wondering if it was that Mike preferred that. He thought that was more of a gut punch for the audience to actually. Maybe he experimented. I'd have to find out if he experimented with, well, that I think they probably should see Hassan fall. Maybe that's the sadder beat. Or maybe it was, I don't get that Hassan died if we don't. I have no idea. But it was not, I never intended for that to be seen. But it was what Mike ended up choosing. So yeah.
It's your death that I think I possibly, no offense, after the dog, cried out the most, because he's a good guy, Hassan. Like of everyone on the island, he's the one who has done nothing wrong. And, you know, he is in many ways the eyes and ears of the audience. He is our way into Crockett Island because we get him more. We're sort of, he's our vessel to sort of witness this crazy religious revival that is happening there / vampirism.
Well, I remember Kate saying to me, pulling me aside when I was having a low moment about something, which I often do. And Kate took me aside and she was like, have you spoken to Mike about this show? Like about you and I? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, this show starts with you thinking that Riley is the hero, the lead, right? But he dies. And then the audience, they go, no, Father Paul is. And then you turn out he's not. And what you're left with is Aaron and the sheriff, who together, along with Annabeth, the teacher, the doctor, and the sheriff, single-handedly stop all this from happening, and they save the world because they stop this from a right. Aaron stops the angel from flying, and Sarah figures out the blood stuff, and Hassan basically lights everything on fire, and his son is the one who throws the final match. So they, he was like, it ends with the Muslim brown man and the woman like being the saviors of our story. It wasn't this male white saviors thing. She goes, I know it's buried, but it's intentional. And I was like, and that's when it clicked for me. And I was like, oh yeah, that is it. Sometimes it's not about word count. And I've got to remember this as an actor. Sometimes it's not about scene counting and word counting. It's about impact, and it's about what you contribute to the story. And while Hassan's the vessel, it's also nice to know that his actions and his sacrifice is what saves the world from this becoming the global thing we see in other types of shows where zombieism takes, what I mean? So, yeah.
And looking badass in double denim at the same time. So, I mean, Clint Eastwood, Joel from The Last of Us. I mean, any other inspirations? Where did the double denim thing come from?
The double denim was Terry. I said I wanted cowboy silhouette because I wanted to make sure, because my favorite thing about the character, which was that Mike had taken, and I've quoted this, every time you do press, you get one thing that you quote again and again and again just to get through it. So everyone winds up with the same quote, but it's true. One of my favorite things about it was Mike took the American hero, the John Wayne, the Clint Eastwood, and smashed it with post 9/11, the American villain, the brown bearded man. So because those two types of characters were smashed together and embodied in this one vessel, I felt that it was important for me to make sure that both sides were taken care of. So obviously I didn't need to take care of the brown bearded man too much. That was there, but I wanted to make sure that you guys still felt the silhouette of something you'd seen before. So, and also I fucking love Sergio Leone. So I always make things fun for me. Do you know what I mean? So I was playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption because that's such a chore. And I was listening to, Ennio soundtracks, and I was, just like eating away at Deadwood and Timothy Oliphant and all the stuff, because it was beneficial to me. But I was like, what's the through line, man? What are all these dudes doing that is common amongst them? What's the posture? What's the vibe? How does it work? And tried to find the Hassan's version of that, so every pose, hands on the hips on his gun holster, which is empty, all of it was intentional, so that you'd go, oh, he's the sheriff, but he's brown, that's weird. And to the point where funny note was, I asked for cowboy boots. So firstly when Terry presented me with the options of, Rahul for some reason wants to make him a fucking cowboy. And I even sent a voice note to Mike of my final monologue from episode 6 with a Southern accent. And Mike was like, how about we don't? And I was like, okay, cool. And it just basically sounded like Arthur Morgan, like, there's good more. Like, it was just so thick. And he was like, no. So I'm glad Mike's there, because he doesn't let you have all your own way. He's still got your back. So there were hats. And we put on the hat, and I looked like a fucking dickhead. And I was like, nope, no hat. Like, so we threw that away. And then Terry was like, try these Sherpas on, try these denim jackets. And it just, the blue one hit. And I was like, oh yeah. And then with the gold, or the tin badge or whatever. And then it just naturally was like, you look good in blue. And we liked the blue sheriff shirt because there were multiple versions of that. And then it led to, well, we might as well just go the whole way. Let's try it with some jeans. And then we stood there and we're like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
the cosplay.
Cool.
It is almost triple denim though. Like with the blue.
It is triple denim, yeah.
Yeah, it is, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also, because I'm a little fanboy and I'm a nerd and whatever, I do think about cosplay. I do think, because I nearly cried when I first saw the first Ravi from my zombie especially for brown dudes, man. Like, we always have to race bend characters. If I want to be Gosling from Drive, I can do it, but everyone's going to be like, oh, that's an interesting inaccurate take because of your skin tone. So one of the things I do fucking do, and I don't care, like, I know it should be about the work, and I know, you know, I am a serious actor, but I still think about Halloween and that. So when I help with character creation, I take that in mind. That's why Owen was very specific. So and as sure as hell came Halloween last year, Owen's moustache, aprons, the works, curtains, and I was like, nailed it. We did it again. This is, I'm liking this. And I've already got tweets from people about going to Sheriff Hassan to
that's amazing
to Halloween, and I'm like, fuck yeah, because I was that person. I was that person who, you know, did the Crow, and they don't represent me. I love these characters, and I still feel a closeness for them. But it's dope when you can be the most accurate version of that character because of your skin tone or whatever. And so what I had was, sneakily, which I don't think Mike was aware of, I asked Terry for cowboy boots, and he was like, seriously? And I was like, I want cowboy boots. So he got me cowboy boots, but we made sure that the ends weren't pointy. So he managed to find a cowboy boot that kind of looks like a regular boot, but it ain't. If you lift up the jean, it's all embroidered and shit. It's ridiculous, right? And I would, every now and again, like with Hamish or Henry or whatever, I'd flash a little bit of cowboy boot after a serious scene, and it would make them laugh that it's so ridiculous this guy's doing this. But I wanted them because it was important to me to feel that way. And the original note was, and I think it hadn't dawned on Mike. It only dawned on Mike I was wearing cowboy boots till really late on, which was the scene calls for Sheriff Hassan to pull out a pistol from his boot or from his leg. And then he fires it in the church. And on that morning in front of everyone, I was like, Mike, you might want to change that. And he was like, why? I was like, there's no way you want to see these rolled up to pull out a thing. I was like, show me. And I pull up the jean, and he sees the fucking stupidest cowboy boot, and he just starts pissing himself. And he's like, what about waistband? And I was like, yeah, I'll pull it from the waistband. So we rolled it back. So that's the only reason I do it from here, is because of the cowboy boot. We didn't want anyone to see. It was just for me. And then I got a text from Mike a couple of weeks ago. He located the cowboy boots in storage. He found both my pairs, and he was like, do you want one? I'm keeping one. So we both have a pair. I've got to get it off him, but we both have a pair of the cowboy boots.
Oh, that's nice. I want to see those boots.
Yeah, I'll put a picture up of them because I want people to know. Yeah. I don't want it to be ridiculous though, but it is ridiculous. When you see a picture and you know that, you know, when I'm crying for my son or I die on that beach, like he's got these like line dancing type boots on. But yeah. So
listen, I mean, it's been a pleasure. I guess the best way to end this is just to sort of, I get an idea of just how important it has been for you being part of Midnight Mass.
I don't know yet. It's so early, right? It's still like 10 days. But the experience, this show was important for a lot of reasons. Personally, it was Mike's baby. This is Mike's passion project. Mike is about 6 of those characters, particularly Riley. You know, there's a wonderful essay that he wrote for Bloody Disgusting, which, if you read it, you'll really understand what this show means to him and what it represents. So because Bossman cares that much, we care that much. So there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into making this. People made a lot of sacrifices. Zach missed the birth of his child to be on that beach for that one. He had to run off between takes on FaceTime with his wife, who was in the emergency room. Wow. And when Zach did that, you don't complain about not, being at work because it's Liverpool in the Champions League. So thanks for that, Zach. He top trumped everyone. I missed the birth of my child, so shut up. There were a lot of sacrifices. Like I said, it was COVID. There were people there who, we had immune compromised actors. We had immune compromised, like everyone took a risk to make this, but we did it because we love the material. We love Mike. It was important for me because, like I said, Gosling said he did Drive because he wanted to, it was his version of a superhero, because he didn't think he was going to do a Marvel or a DC. But this is my superhero with the scorpion on the back and the toothpick. This is my superhero. I don't know if I'm going to be about that world, but it's the double denim, triple denim art scar on the eyebrow sheriff. But yeah, I mean, how important is it? I've used this. I've sent this text to Mike, and I've sent this to Bo, and a few others, and it's just, we really did something. I don't know what that means. I haven't fully. Again, I don't understand that fully, but that's all I can articulate is, hey, we really made something. We really did something. We did a thing. We made art. We did something. We got people talking.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's an incredible show. Thank you. It really is. It's a show that you think about, and like you said, like you did with Mike, you stopped it and you talked about it, and you guys made it. I mean, people are talking about it. I've had conversations about it. It sits with you. It gets under your skin. It makes you think. There's such important themes being discussed in this show. It's fantastic. And again, for you personally, you've created another character here. You've done something very different to anything I've seen you do before on screen. And as you said at the start, obviously it takes time for, the wheels behind the scenes to turn and what that might mean for you personally. But I guess it is always worth asking the question of if it's given you an idea of what you'd like to do. So in the future, if people start going, you know what you did in Midnight Mass? We want that. We want that hero. We want you to play that heroic character again. Is that something you'd like to do? Or is it always, I want to try something new?
I want to try something new. But I learned a lot about trust and pushing myself. And like I said, the experience of making this show, and thank you, by the way, it was very kind of you to say, but the experience of making this was drowning. That's the only thing I can compare it to. I constantly felt like my nose was just above water. That's how I felt for 6 months. And then that's how I felt for the rest of the downtime. But one thing I do know, as much as art is subjective, I'm a far better fucking actor now than I was when I started that project. And what I have taken away is I'd like to feel like that more often. So I don't know what it is I play, but if I'm not drowning, that means I'm not pushing myself. And if I feel comfortable, that means I'm staying in my comfort zones, and I'm not trying hard enough. I've worked on some things since I wasn't drowning. I'm hoping to work on something soon, and I'm planning on throwing myself into that pool. And it could just mean being deeper with the work, being less broad, or taking risks. So I was scared, but like I said, I do feel better on the other side. I feel like, funnily enough, my American accent's even better now than it was when I started, even though there are mistakes, and for me anyway, and things I wish I could go back and fix, but it was what it was. All in all, it was I grew as an actor, and I grew as a person. So that's what I'm looking for. So if what I want from casting directors or my team is, I want to be told you're not right for it. And then give me James Bond then. Because I tell you now, after going through Midnight Mass, I'll fucking rip that role apart. I'll drown under the weight of the expectation of being the first brown person to play that character. I'm 35. What was it? Daniel Craig was 38 when he did Casino Royale. I like feeling that way. I like being doubted, and I like being told I can't do something. So that's what I want. Whatever, you know what I mean? But
yeah, no,
I will go for it. I like it now. I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to being miserable and crying myself to sleep, and I'm like, that's art. That's how it should feel. Yeah.
All right, final question.
Okay.
To end the Midnight Mass spoiler special, what is your take on the ending? What happens to the angel?
He never made it.
Okay.
Burnt up. Erin gets her moment. If he doesn't, then what's she die for? Erin clips that angel's wings. It never makes it. It burns up. And I think it also burns up. And I think we know it burns up. I don't think it's subjective, because as soon as it burns up, Lisa can feel her legs. And I think its influence is it's lessened.
Interesting. Because, obviously you're aware of the big debate about whether it escapes or not, because I think there was an argument that the angel represents fanaticism and fanaticism, obviously, you know, if it gets wiped out somewhere, it will inevitably spring up again somewhere else. And so the angel does escape. And actually, Lisa feeling her legs again is because, as Sarah, the doctor, points out, you know, once you're not drinking any more blood, your system cleanses itself. And so actually the vampire's blood has worked its way through. And so that's why she feels her legs.
Yeah. But I think that the fact that it happens almost immediately as the sun rises, I think there is a bond of drinking someone's blood and having that blood through you. And I think I know it's dead. I always do that to people when they speculate, and I go, "Yeah, but I know though, because I know I fucking know because I was in it." But I thought fanaticism. I didn't think the angel represented fanaticism. Crockett Island represented fanaticism. Bev, Father Paul, they took something which clearly wasn't representing Christianity or anything remotely angelic and bent it to their will. The angel just represents a trend. It's the coronavirus. It's a political ideal. It's abortion. It's crime. It's whatever. It's a vessel for whatever our hot topic is. And the hot topic on Crockett Island is 7 foot skinny naked dude drinks blood. What is it? And it gets completely politicized. You know, Hassan's take will be completely different from what their take is, and Sarah's take is, and what Father Paul wants it to be. And the angels are relevant. It's more about how we take these things and weaponize it and create divide to serve our own benefits. And if Crockett Island existed and the angel did die, there'd be something new on the island the next time. We don't know, but it will happen again. And yeah.
So the angel dies, and that's why Lisa can feel her legs again.
That's, yeah.
You know.
Reckon. No, not that bit. Not that bit. I know that the angel definitely dies because there's no way we would rob Erin of that. Erin does what she's supposed to do. I don't think it's Inception with the wobble thing. Like, I think, you know, we would never rob our lead of that moment. I think that's where I will say, I think that Lisa immediately feels a disconnect because the angel's hold over the island and its influence and its blood is dissipated. There's almost a bond. It's almost like why Father Paul says he felt that. Oh yeah, no, I do know. I'm right, by the way.
Go on.
So it's because Father Paul says he doesn't know why, but he felt Riley die. He knew Riley burnt up. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
He goes, I don't know. I feel it. And I think there is a bond and a link between each other. Once they've all consumed from the same thing, they share a certain, I don't want to say, it's a good word for it, the force. They share something in their midichlorians amongst themselves. And I think that's when it severs. I think if they hadn't have burnt up and the angel was dead, I think they would have all severed that connection, and it would have maybe changed how they were aging as well, or at least sped it up, the kind of returning back to normal. So as much as, like, Father Paul knew that Riley went, I think once the angel's gone, Lisa almost feels something's changed inside of her.
I'll take it. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, the angel dies then. The angel does not escape.
That's what I think.
It's what you know. No, it's what you think. Yeah, it's what you think.
No, I know. I just don't. I think the leg thing's related to the angel, but I know the angel's dead. There has to be.
Rahul, this has been an absolute pleasure, man.
Oh, likewise, mate.
Honestly, I've been dying to have this conversation just from the minute I finished watching it. So it's just been, you know, it's been one of those shows that I think as more and more people are watching it. I mean, people are watching it already, but every person I'm speaking to is now like, yeah, I've seen it. Let's talk about it. This is a big thing. It's an important thing.
I'd have been worried if you didn't circle back and pick me up on talking about it, because that would have been a great review. Yeah. No, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. Like, I've been I knew when I was talking to you on the first podcast, I just had I felt very confident. I was like, I think you're gonna dig it. I think you're gonna want to talk.
I remember you saying, I remember you going, I think people are really, really going to like this. And obviously you couldn't say anything, but I don't know whether you could have actually anticipated, because it's not an overstatement. And obviously you're aware of it, like we said, on social media. There has been an outpouring of love and respect for this show, possibly far beyond, I think, you could have imagined.
But not beyond Squid Game.
It's fucking brilliant, right?
I wouldn't fucking watch until Mike tweeted Squid Game's good. Because I'm so loyal. If Mike said never fucking watch Squid Game while you're a member of my cast, I'd never have seen it. Because I'll die for that man. But as soon as he tweeted, he texted me, he went, it's really good. I was like, fuck it. So now I'm on episode 4 or 5 or something. But yeah, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's good. We could do a spoiler special on Squid Game one day. Hey, listen, you look after yourself, man. Really good to speak to you. And good luck with whatever you're doing next. I can't wait to talk to you next time, man.
Absolutely. Whatever it is, I'm down. We'll talk.
Nice one, dude. Hello, Alex here. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get in touch with us at all, for any reason, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at JTFpod. And don't forget to subscribe to the full audio podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your pods.